The 4x4 Podcast, episode 146.
You're listening to a 4x4 Radio Network podcast.
Whether you're going to start a trip to Tierra Del Fuego or simply hitting the forest roads in the Ozarks for the weekend, Artemis Overland Hardware has just what you need. Visit online at artemisoverland.com. That's ARTEMIS overland.com, or visit their awesome showroom located in Springfield, Missouri.
You're listening to the 4x4 Podcast, the podcast all about four-wheeling, overlanding, off-road racing, and the outdoor lifestyle. We talk about news, tips and tricks, answer your questions, and interview big and little names in the off-roading world. So whether your rig is busted and you're in the shop wrenching on it, or you're on your way to the trail, join us and we'll keep you plugged in on topics to help you get away. Here are your hosts, Dan, Craig, and Rich.
Hey, what's going on? And actually, we don't have Rich this time. Last time, when we talked about the Overland Expo West, we didn't have Craig. This time, we don't have Rich. But instead of Rich, we have Adam from Blue Ridge Overland Gear and the infamous Overland History on Instagram. How you doing tonight, Adam?
Good, Dan. How are you?
Doing great. I am excited to discuss later the continuing saga of the Diesel XJ build, but we're going to save that one for later. Craig, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Balancing out everything. Realized that luckily I bought a bearing kit for the transmission because two of the bearings are really wobbly in the transmission, so I'm glad I bought it. So I'm just waiting on renting a puller so I can pull them off and start putting the transmission back together. But it's burnt. There's a lot of burnt in there. So It's going to take a little time to clean out, but I'm doing pretty good.
Awesome. We've got a really exciting show tonight. We have an interview with Jimmy and Tyler from Snail Trail 4x4, launching a new off-roading podcast. Excited to share that with you guys. Also, we've got a couple news articles. We skipped over these last time. Let's see, we've got a Rivian and Ford article, Jeep Gladiator news, a good way to get a Series 1 Land Rover, all the Easter Jeep Safari concepts that we haven't talked about yet, and the Tacoma and Tundra sharing a platform, as well as some feedback that's really exciting. So before we get into the rest of the show and the news, let's go ahead and jump to our interview with Jimmy and Tyler from Snail Trail 4x4. Tonight on the podcast, we've got the really unique opportunity. We have Craig and Rich also on for the interview, and we have Jimmy and Tyler who are launching a new podcast in the 4x4 space. How you guys doing tonight, Jimmy and Tyler?
We are doing awesome. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, life is great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, so your voices may be familiar to some other folks because you've got some affiliation with another podcast, but now you're breaking off into your own space. But before we start talking about the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast, let's get to know you guys a little bit more. The Toyota guys, as some may know you. So we'll start off with you, Tyler. How did you get how'd you get into off-roading?
That's a good question. Pretty much it was because of my dad. Growing up, we always, we lived up in kind of the Fresno area of California, and there's a lot of really awesome off-roading trails up outside of Shaver Lake. So he had an 86 4Runner. Before that, he had a first-gen Bronco, which was awesome. That he broke down quite a bit. Go Broncos. But I ended up getting an 86 4Runner that he had for a really long time, and we just went all over the Shaver Lake area, Bald Mountain, Red Lake, Coyote, Mirror, Swamp, Doozy, all sorts of stuff around that area. So I kind of grew up in the Shaver Lake area, ended up falling in love with it, and then got out of it for a while. And once I got older, got myself a big boy job, got my own rig, and originally the rig I got was an 07 dual cab long bed Tacoma, which, if you guys know about the wheelbases on those, it's like 138-inch wheelbase.
Yeah.
and I was trying to do rock crawling with it, so it was interesting.
Isn't that why they call it the taco?
The taco.
You smash it into rocks and then it kind of deforms.
Yeah, pretty much. It was the macho taco. So
or what we used to call teeter-totter.
The teeter-totter, yeah, that happened quite a bit too. So I had it built up and put it on 35s. It was just still open. It was the sport version, so no lockers or anything, just a limited slip in the rear. And put the rock protection on it, a nice winch bumper on it, and had fun with it. And then it got to the point where I was like, I kind of want to get into this, I think, a little bit more. And I priced out what I wanted to do to fully build it up to where I wanted it. And it was going to be a lot of money. And I realized I could just buy another rig. And then that was fully built for like half the price of what it would cost to build out the taco. So that's what I ended up doing. And now I have a first gen 4Runner, an 85. So has the factory solid front axle, the fuel injected engine in it. So it's the golden year. And I have a lot of stuff done to it. Pretty much the only thing not done to it yet is hydro assist. But, up here in the Sierras, in the NorCal Sierras, it's all about the rock crawling up here. So everything I have done to it is built for kind of that off-roading, rock crawling style of off-roading, which is very partial to my heart, and snow wheeling too. So I have built it up for snow and rocks, and don't do too much of the other kind of styles of off-roading, especially the mud, because I hate cleaning it off afterwards.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the real sign of being a grown-up.
Yeah, exactly. we have a fun buddy we're slowly getting into rocks, and he goes, I hate cleaning off the 4Runner after mud every time. And we're like, now you understand. You're growing up.
Now you know why none of us like it.
Exactly.
Seriously. So with the Taco, the Tacoma, were you daily driving that one as well when you kind of decided just to recock and start with a new vehicle, or did you have a daily driver?
Yeah, I was daily driving it, which, when you're daily driving your off-road rig, it can be a little anxiety driven while you're off-roading, but at that same kind of time, I started transitioning jobs and needed an even better daily driver driving all the miles I do now for my day job. So I had to sell the Tacoma, but I was able to buy a daily driver and a rock crawler with it. So it ended up working out really well. Yeah.
That's really good. So with the 4Runner now, there's one that was for sale local to me recently, and I can't remember. It may not have been the same year, but it was still an early 4Runner. Had like the removable cover on the back, but I think it was independent suspension, so it may have been right after that.
Yeah, the first gen 4Runners, they started in late '84, so I think the production started in September '84, something like that. And then they went through '89. And so you'll find that removable hardtop on the rear of the first gen 4Runners. They're 2 doors. Removable hardtop is the only 4Runner with those 2 options on it. But after '85, they made them all IFS. And some of them had the carbureted engine still. So I actually have a buddy who has an IFS carbureted 86. And it's like the least sought after 4Runner on the market ever.
Yeah. Well, you'd think this one that was for sale is made of unobtainium for what he's asking for. It's like 250-some thousand miles, and he was still asking like $8,000 or $9,000. I was like, you're out of your mind.
He better have a lot of stuff done to that.
Or
it's like
super clean.
Exactly.
It was not that either. So.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy. I know that
wishful thinking. Then.
Yeah, I know that California gets kind of a premium out of the older style Toyota vehicles, like the mini trucks or the 4Runners, just because we don't get a lot of rust on the frame and the underbody here. But $8,000 to $9,000, that's definitely unobtainium.
Crazy money there. But all right, so let's swing it over here. Same question for you, Tyler.
Jimmy,
sorry. That I knew I was going to do that. I was just looking at Tyler's name on the Skype here. I can
go again if you guys like. I don't mind talking.
Tyler could probably tell
you. Good practice. All right, so Jimmy, your turn. Same questions.
Yeah, thank you. So I started when I just got my license for the most part. And I probably shouldn't admit this, but actually my first vehicle was a Jeep.
I didn't even know that.
Really? Yeah.
Boy, we are exposing truths right here.
Yeah.
And
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I
And,
need a new co-host if you guys know anybody.
interviews are open. It was a 1986 Cherokee, and it was a lemon. It was actually my parents' car. But I got to use it whenever I needed and everything. And then it was the vehicle just didn't work. It was always breaking, and there was just all these kind of just random gremlin problems. They decided to get rid of it, and then they bought a Toyota pickup. And then from there, I've had Toyotas my entire life, and just have gotten a few new ones and changed them out and gone from there. But the primary reason that I got into wheeling, I think, is for the most part what a lot of people would say is their reason too, is just the group of friends that I was hanging out with in high school and the people that, enjoyed the same things that I enjoyed. We would all get together and we'd go out wheeling and go out camping and hang out, up here. I grew up in the Sacramento area, so I was really close to the Rubicon and Fordyce and some of these somewhat legendary trails. And, I was lucky at a young age to be able to go out onto these things and try out the trails and try out my skills and learn that a 31-inch tire open, truck wasn't going to even make it through Gatekeeper. So
no amount of finesse is going to make that happen.
No.
So I got a Jeep on 31s open. I guess I had a limited slip in the rear, but a 4-door JK through Gatekeeper recently, but that was after it's been blasted and everything.
Yeah.
We tore it up pretty good though too.
This was, we're talking back in like the late 90s for me. So, but yeah, and then since then, it's just I enjoy like the fabrication side of things and ripping things apart and figuring out how they go back together and, building the rigs and, just getting my hands dirty and grease underneath my nails and things of that nature. And, that's one of the first things that I remember is when I got the Toyota, I started taking it apart, and my parents were like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I don't know. I just wanted to see how things work." And that seemed to be okay until I couldn't figure out how to put it back together one day. And my dad actually couldn't take his car out of the garage to go to work. But and then so from there, it's just been building up my own rigs and, learning how to do things. And recently got myself a tube bender and some welding supplies and just, going to go at it myself now instead of helping out with some friends and doing things at their shops.
Nice. So I guess as we start to transition over here to Snail Trail, unless Rich or Craig, you got any other questions about Toyota stuff? And I guess to be fair, we should disclose that, I had an FJ Cruiser at one time. Rich has had a Tacoma before, so we don't really discriminate.
Two Toyota trucks.
Two?
Yeah, my first truck ever was a Toyota.
Oh, well, I forgot about that one. That was a long time ago.
So you can come be Tyler's co-host.
There you go. We'll trade.
Yeah.
Well, I guess then I can't because I've never had a Toyota.
Well, there you go. But
it's okay. As long as you still like to wheel, we'll still talk to you, I guess.
Just have to maintain a distance.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thing is, it's just we don't really discriminate on which off-road vehicle is being used. There's lots of good ways to get out to wherever it is you're going and on the trails. Some of them may leave you broken or present more challenges, but, that's part of the fun, I guess.
Yeah, totally. No, we're still there too. A lot of the stuff that we're going to be doing, we're hoping relates back to pretty much any wheeling rigs out there. It's just that we both, have Toyotas, own Toyotas, wheel Toyotas. And so a lot of the stuff will kind of center around that. But that's kind of the beauty of off-roading is that it really translates to like any off-roading vehicle out there. It's all just kind of the concepts of the physics and the trails and what you can do to your vehicles to make them more trail worthy. And if you really put your mind to it, you can really do anything to any vehicle and have fun out there. So
for sure. Well, so before we start talking Snail Trail stuff, Tyler, I know you're also involved in ham radio, right? I think we may have chatted at some point about that.
I think involved is an understatement. Yeah.
So full on ham radio nerd.
Ham radio stuff.
So, and it's funny. So I've got my ham radio license. I got it as I was getting ready to move up to Alaska as a way to maintain communications along the Alcan and in the number of adventures that I expected to have when I was up in Alaska. But it's always remained a tool for off-roading, whereas I know a lot of people, probably yourself, are into ham radio as its own hobby. Is that a fair assessment?
I got into it for a little while there, definitely as its own hobby. But then I started kind of getting more and more into off-roading and kind of the other aspects of off-roading. And the ham radio hobby side of it has died off a little bit in terms of like the contesting behind ham radio or fox hunts. But I have now started stepping into the realm of setting up repeater systems for off-roading trails and some off-roading events. Like this year, I don't know if you guys are very familiar with California Four-Wheel Drive Association and Sierra Trek, but I'll be setting up the communications for Sierra Trek this year, which has been pretty...
Just me, or did it die?
I was just going to say...
It died.
Okay. Everything is still rolling, though.
I had no audio there.
Yeah, everything just completely took a crap.
I thought it was just me, so I wasn't going to say anything.
And then no videos running, so everybody was just looking at a blank screen, wondering, what's happening?
Pretty much.
Okay, yeah. So Sierra Trek, you're setting up the ham radio repeaters at Sierra Trek this year? What are the dates on that one, by the way?
Oh, man, I knew you were going to ask that.
Disregard, we'll ask that one later. Tell me about the repeater system.
Quick, I'll look it up real quick. We'll be doing the communications out there. So last year there was an unfortunate event on the trail where one of the trail crew lost their life. And so at that happened, right at that kind of moment in time, the repeater happened to go down as well. That was covering the trail and the communications for the event. So it was kind of a really interesting, bad situation of trying to figure out what was going on and get emergency help and life flights out there. And it kind of was a mess for a little bit there. So I'll be working on setting up a redundant system this year that covers 100% of the trail rather than just the 80 to 90% that we've been able to get with just one repeater. So we're going to have multiple repeaters that are going to get 100% trail coverage. So that's going to be really fun to do. So
awesome. Well, I'm sure that'll be discussed more on your show once you're up and running.
Yep. Yeah, it definitely will be.
Awesome.
And
well,
just to fill in some of the hole here, Sierra Trek is August 8th through the 11th.
Oh, well, crap. I know for a fact I will not be able to make that one. So I will be.
Oh, that's too bad.
I will be back up in Alaska trying to restock my freezer.
Nice.
But okay, so that's pretty cool. And I know you run some classes as well. I remember hearing to try and get some more people off of CBs and onto a better radio system.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was kind of one of the big pushes that got me further into ham radio was, the great thing about ham radio is, especially in the United States here, is that there's repeaters everywhere. And California, especially if you're in California, there's not really too many places you can go in the state where you're not going to be able to hit a repeater. And a repeater essentially just takes your radio signal and increases it to a much larger range. So far, the largest range I've been able to get from my vehicle has been about 200 miles. So you can think about it when you're out there wheeling with a CB, you're lucky if the CB works around the corner, around the trees in front of you kind of thing. So there's just too many things that go wrong with CBs, that they're a little bit harder to tune to get the antennas to work properly. You got to make sure the person you're talking to has their antennas tuned properly. They don't run a whole lot of power, and they run on a very short, I say a very long wavelength compared to the main ham radio channels that off-roaders will use, VHF and UHF stuff. CBs are very long wavelength in comparison, so the antenna systems are very difficult to set up on vehicles to work correctly, and there's no repeaters. So in terms of talking vehicle to vehicle, it's okay as long as your vehicle is like within like 100 yards of you with CB. Whereas with ham radio, yeah, you can. It's beats the pants off of CB for communicating vehicle to vehicle, but what happens when you're out there and something goes wrong.
Exactly.
And you do need to get back in touch with emergency communications or a search and rescue team or someone to bring in extra drive shaft for you, an extra axle or something like that. So being able to get a hold of somebody, that's within, 100 miles of you, it's a really valuable thing that I think a lot of off-roaders should get. Because a lot of off-roaders have now started getting, that CalStar the CalReach Lifeline programs. But it's like how you're spending money investing on a Lifeline system insurance, but how are you going to communicate with that helicopter to where to land or where your evac is, that you even need a Lifeline in the first place? So there's all these kind of different things that go into it. And it's like a ham license is so easy to get. It's not really that difficult. It's not that costly. The systems are super easy to set up on a vehicle. So there's really not too many excuses nowadays not to get a ham license. What I've just found out is that a lot of off-roaders are very mechanically inclined, but not too many of them are super electrically inclined. And so they automatically assume that because there's a test to get the license that you have to know a lot about electricity or radios or antennas or all this other stuff. That's really not it. It's a lot of commonsensical stuff. But
I got mine just through blunt force study methods, just going through the flashcards until I was able to hit that 90% on average, passing the practice test. Then
it's
pay my
also
$15 and done it.
It's also changed. It used to be really hard to get a ham license.
Yeah, it used to be you had to pass the Morse code proficiency test, and it's not like that. It's 35 questions. You have to pass 70% of them, or 75. I don't know. It's easy.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. They took the Morse code out of it in 2007. So, I mean, in terms of the off-roading scene, people have been off-roading forever. It's a relatively new change that a lot of people don't know about. So it is very easy to get a license nowadays, and it can definitely save a life. I've personally saved at least 3 lives on the trail now just because I had a ham license and I was able to help out when the help was needed. So it's a very valuable thing to have, and it's not that hard to get. So I created online classes that do have that kind of brute force attack style memorization to it if that's how you learn best. I also have audio files that you can listen to if listening helps you learn best, or you can read if reading information helps you learn best. So those are all online, and you can also choose a nice a nonprofit organization that works on keeping our trails open to the public for 15% of your registration to go back to. So there's a lot of donations and giving back to our trail systems here in the United States when you take the online class. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Excellent. Well, I hope more people continue to move over to ham radio. Not just selfishly, so that I can talk to more people on ham radio, but so
that was another thing. I was getting sick and tired of listening to CBs all the time because they just have so much white noise static in the background. I was like, I can't listen to this anymore. Let's get more people on ham.
Makes my ears
you just got to
bleed.
know how to tune it.
No, even a well-tuned CB compared to a ham radio is not good.
I've never had any problems with my CBs that I've had. I used to do fox hunting with it. I was in a club. We did fox hunting. My CB could cover the whole Bay Area. So just a few feet away, 100 yards. No, mine, I could cover the whole San Jose area with my CB. So the one I have, it's not
that
a
sounds suspect.
Yeah, let's put it that way.
Yeah, yours may not adhere to the FCC
don't have the
rules.
Power, but I mean, there are ones out there that do have the power that can cover the whole Bay Area. I can go up on the hill and I can talk to Sacramento. So on my CB. So yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said, that there's more people actually monitoring the ham radios now, and at home they're monitoring them so they can just get on the phone and help you out. So yeah, I agree, but I like my CB.
Yeah, I think once you have experienced a ham radio, though, you will likely change your mind. But moving on, so let's switch back to the Snail Trail. Jimmy, the Snail Trail, I think, originated as a YouTube channel, or how'd that come about?
Yeah, no, definitely. It was, we started as a YouTube channel where I was just working on trucks and building trucks up, Toyotas. I did some 5th gen 4Runner stuff with the friend that we were talking about a little earlier. And then working on my truck, Bobcat, which is a 1991 Toyota pickup has a ton of modifications on it. And so I was just showing little tricks and things that I've learned throughout my times of wheeling and, how to change your corner lights into blinkers and just random small stuff like that. And then it's just kind of grown, and now I've actually have a 3rd gen Tacoma, and I'm building a 2-wheel drive truck up into a 4-wheel drive truck, and I've had other guests on the channel, and it's just been it's just ever moving forward and getting a little larger every single day, which is a fun thing. And so we're looking at trying to bring 2 houses together with our Tyler and my love for podcasting, and big thanks to Jeff and Greg for letting us get our toes wet and learn a little bit more about that. And so we just wanted to try to bring 2 of these 2 of our loves underneath one roof, and just move forward.
Yeah. So how did you and Tyler get to know each other to end up coming on to the High Sierra show as co-hosts?
Yeah. So Tyler and I have a mutual friend. And for the most part, we didn't know each other until like about a year or so ago.
About a year now, yeah.
Yeah, and Tyler was on episode 300 actually on the High Sierra 4x4 podcast, and then when Greg had his child and things were going on there on the podcast, Tyler reached out to me and he said, hey, do you want to try to help out and cover some of these episodes and fill in wherever that we can help them out with, and so I agreed. And, and then kind of from there we started hanging out a lot more, and, we went wheeling a bunch since then, and, we've become good friends pretty quick.
That's good. It's funny. We were talking just before we hit record on this, like, you actually get to record together in person. I have no idea what that's like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because we were saying the same thing about you guys. Like, I don't know how you guys would record apart from how that's even possible. Yeah. Like, it's really fun to be able to feed off of each other's energy, sitting in the same room and, at least being able to interrupt them and say, hey, hold on, stop talking. Yeah. I got something to say here. And, but
a lot of hand signals. It's a lot of hand signals. Hey, wait, stop.
And the first 10 minutes of every attempt is a train wreck, as you saw. It's just par for the course. It's expected.
Yeah.
But
well, here, definitely we can. I do occasionally throw some things at them in the middle of the podcast, but it's all in good fun.
Nice. Well, so tell me a little bit more about the podcast. Where's somebody going to be able to find the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast? When is it going live?
Yeah, so good questions. We'll be going live on May 2nd. So that's when our first official episode will be released. We should have a teaser episode up right now on the website, snailtrail4x4.com. And then as we're speaking before we recorded here tonight with you guys, we were sitting down and finishing up some of the accounts with iTunes, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, all those good guys, Spotify. So those will all be live here within the next week or so. So the week of April 1st. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the week of April 1st, first week of April, should be able to find the podcast on pretty much any podcasting platform, any apps out there for the teaser. And then it'll just be super easy to hit subscribe. And then when May 2nd comes around, your phone gets to notify you and remind you that there's a brand new Snail Trail episode out. So
nice.
Yeah.
So I got it. We're going to be talking about building up Toyotas, ham radio stuff. What other kinds of things you guys going to be covering on the Snail Trail?
We're going to be doing some trail reviews and going out to events and just, general mayhem and along the lines of, or also any new vehicles coming out. We'll just be discussing those and how they, probably how they compare to our Toyotas. But, but just sort of a lot of that. Our daily lives, one of the things that we found is, Tyler and I do a lot in regards to the wheeling and off-roading. And, we try to keep the podcast on the High Sierra 4x4 less than an hour, and we end up many times talking for an hour on just everything we've been doing. And so, I'll be talking about some of the things in the shop and, tricks I'm learning and what's happening with what we call the family, which is the like 5 vehicles that I own.
The fleet.
The fleet, yeah.
The fleet. Yeah, we call it the family. But yeah, I have a 2016 Toyota Tacoma. I have
whose name is Charlotte.
Yeah, that's Charlotte. I name all my vehicles, by the way. And then I have Clifford, the big red Ford, which is a 1997 F-250 diesel.
Which gets stuck in his front yard.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, you're running street tires. I think what you should do, though, is swipe off all the Ford badges and put some Toyota stuff on there, just to keep it,
that's a good deal.
Just to
the
drive
adopted
people crazy.
family.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I that's not a bad idea. I wonder how much hate I would get.
Just call it the ugly Tundra.
Yeah.
A 7.3 diesel Tundra.
Definitely. And then I've got
just tell people you're testing it for Toyota.
Yeah. It's an old square body model.
Yeah.
So then I've got a 1994 Toyota pickup Lloyd that I drive. It's like a daily driver. It's just a standard one. And then I also have a 1994 that's 2-wheel drive pickup that I'm building into the 4-wheel drive, which is Samantha. Then I have my Rock Crawler, which is a 1991 Toyota pickup.
Ooh, I tell you what, I've got 2 vehicles that both get used off-road, and my budget cannot handle multiple off-roaders. I don't know how you do it.
Oh, I fully understand you there. I have people on my YouTube channel saying, "Hey, I haven't seen this truck in a while," and I'm like, "Sorry, I've been dealing with the other trucks." Yeah. But I'm hoping to whittle it down here in a little bit.
Very nice. Well, I'm excited for you guys to get the show launched. Partly selfishly, so I have another off-roading podcast to listen to, because as fans of the 4x4 podcast know, we're kind of slow on production, thanks to crazy work schedules and coordinating multiple schedules across the country, but I'm excited.
So are you guys shooting for hour shows, half-hour shows?
About an hour long, weekly releases. So we're planning on releasing every Thursday morning. With roughly an hour-long episode, anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes. So shooting for an hour, but that rarely ever happens with us.
Yeah.
But in all honesty, it might happen more often, because when we were on the High Sierra 4x4, we were doing every 2 weeks we would come out with an episode. True. And now we're going to be coming out every week. So that time might get cut down a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, take one show and divide it into one episode into 2 shows.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one thing I've learned from the YouTube world is, it's best not to talk about like, hey, my 5 favorite things about this truck. You might as well just do 5 episodes where each you talk about 5 things that you like.
Yeah. Well, and I think folks that are listening to this will probably agree that the attention span on YouTube is much shorter, whereas everybody's got a fairly lengthy commute for the most part, and they'll listen to a long form content like a podcast differently and in different
Well, I have a
places.
really hard time driving and watching YouTube, so that's why podcasting will work better for me.
True.
Especially if you're trying to text all your friends while watching. That's impossible.
There you go. Yeah, we've had a few listeners write into us and say, you guys keep saying we're sorry we're talking so long, but we're all here to listen to you guys talk, so just talk.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing. When you get to work, you can just hit pause on the podcast and then start it up on the way home. It's the craziest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. We will hold our conversation and wait for you guys.
Yeah.
That's very kind of you guys. Okay. So the Snail Trail 4x4 podcast.com, is that the website, or Snail Trail 4x4?
Yeah, no, it's under snailtrail4x4.com, and then there'll be a podcast tab.
Perfect. So until then, I'm sure some folks here are going to want to kind of follow along and get to know you on an individual basis. So where would you recommend somebody to go to learn more about Tyler or Jimmy?
Yeah, so to learn more about Tyler, I kind of do all my stuff especially personal stuff too, over at My Off-Road Radio. So it's myoffroadradio.com, or you can also put that into Instagram or Facebook, and both of them will come up. I try and stay off Twitter. It seems like Twitter is just kind of getting a lot of people in trouble nowadays, and I would probably not be an exemption to that. So Instagram, Facebook, and then the website are pretty much kind of what I stick to, and then of course all the podcasting stuff too. So
yeah, and for myself, Jimmy, you can find me pretty much everywhere with Snail Trail 4x4, 4x4. I've got a website and YouTube are the primary places, and then Instagram, and then it goes down from there, Facebook, Twitter.
Right on.
Can we find you on MySpace?
I do think I still have a personal account on MySpace, but not a Snail Trail 4x4 one.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, so one of the things that I'm going to try and start to do from now on with the podcast, whenever we have guests on, is see if anybody has any concluding thoughts, anything that we didn't get a chance to talk about on the podcast. So I'll give you a couple seconds to think about any concluding thoughts that maybe we missed. But before we do that, Rich and Craig, you got any other questions last minute before we let them go?
No, I can't wait for that first episode.
Thank you.
Right on.
Not me. I'm good. I can't think of anything.
Okay. So, Tyler, got any concluders that we missed you want to touch on?
I don't think I do.
Okay. Well, then.
Yeah, this has been awesome. No, it's fun to kind of meet you guys and talk with you, because I know that we interact over social media quite a bit with you guys, the 4x4 podcast. And Jimmy and I were listening to a few of the episodes too. So we just listened to the Roxor one this afternoon on our drive home.
That's a fun one.
So that's pretty cool.
All right, Jimmy, you got anything that we missed?
Not so much on the podcast, but I think it'd be fun eventually, maybe one day for, if us California guys, are able to get together. I think that'd be a fun time.
I like it. You'll have to come down here to Southern California, experience some of these trails.
I'm not going to not invite Rich.
Sure. I mean, you're definitely invited.
We have to invite Rich. Just because he can't show up, we can't invite him.
Yeah, we're gonna have to bring on some better sponsors to fund plane tickets for that to happen, I'm sure.
Nice.
All right, guys. Well, I'm looking forward to it. Snail Trail 4x4 podcast, wherever podcasts are found, starting in May. Looking forward to it.
May 2nd.
May 2.
All right, guys. We will talk to you guys later.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks a lot.
We live in a strange time where so many of us want to shop online for equipment that's designed to get us actually outside. I get it, shopping from the comfort of the couch at any time of day is very appealing, but so much of the equipment that we use for overland travel is really expensive, and it would be nice to see it up close and explore it a bit before spending your hard-earned money. Artemis Overland Hardware is located in Springfield, Missouri, and you can visit them in person. You can see all that equipment in person, pick it up there, and head straight out for an adventure right from their shop. Artemis Overland Hardware only stocks the very best equipment. Anything you pick up is going to stand up to the harsh environments that you're going to be subjecting them to. At ArtemisOverland.com, you'll find a wide selection of rooftop tents and ground tents from companies like Oztent, 230, Eezi Awn. Outfit your camp kitchen from SnoMaster Fridge, a Tembo Tusk Skottle, or a stove from Kovea or Frontrunner. Artemis Overland has a large selection of camp furniture as well as roof racks for a wide range of vehicles. Recovery gear, lights, solar power, winches, dual battery systems, KC action tracks, GPS units, and much, much more can all be found at ArtemisOverland.com or the brick and mortar store. Artemis Overland Hardware is one of the very few approved Goose Gear installers and Ironman 4x4 dealers located in the central United States. Whether you're going to start a trip to Tierra Del Fuego or simply hitting the forest roads in the Ozarks for the weekend, Artemis Overland Hardware has just what you need. Visit online at ArtemisOverland.com. That's ARTEMIS Overland.com, or visit their awesome showroom in Springfield, Missouri. All right, now we've got some news. And first up, I'm going to tee this up here, is Rivian is now partnering with Ford. Or maybe it's Ford has partnered with Rivian, seeing as how Ford has the most horsepower in this arrangement. And so just to kind of give you a recap, the Rivian, as we talked about in a couple other shows, and actually the last show, is the all-new electric vehicle. This is a truck platform. And in this instance, Ford Motor Company is investing $500 million in this electric truck maker, which is kind of an interesting thing. So, Adam, did you get a chance to check this out and gather some thoughts?
And I saw some of the coverage at Overland Expo as well. And it's really exciting to see where vehicles are going, where their future is there, and the fact that battery technology has now come such a long way to where you can actually get some range out of these vehicles. And most importantly, it's really great to see, Ford Motor Company, stand behind a small up and coming company like this and, invest in them. And, Ford has always been kind of a visionary even from the beginning. It's really great to see, something really unique and new. And, most importantly, that they brought this thing to Overland Expo to where, they're kind of exploring, I guess, different markets within the car community, so to speak.
Yeah. So there's some really interesting things that come out of here. And this is a pickuptrucks.com article. And it says that this investment from Ford doesn't really change Ford's plans to develop their own in-house electric vehicles. And also, they're a Ford Mustang electric crossover they're still producing. So really this strategic partnership is just bringing in some manufacturing expertise to the Rivian brand, I guess. So I really kind of figured when I first read the headline is that Ford is going to latch on to the electric expertise that Rivian is already working on and suck them into their big umbrella. But that's not the case, which is really kind of strange. I don't know. Craig, you got any thoughts on this?
Well, I don't know. I read a little bit farther down in the article, and now it's looking, let's see, broken. They've invested almost $700 million in cash into their company.
Yeah, so that's $700 million.
I see it as a takeover. I see it that they're doing it to buy their technology, because some of the people that specifically are going into the electric car market or vehicle market, they have totally different technologies. Auto companies don't have that type of electronics people in their repertoire, so they're gonna have to go to an outside source, because I don't think the what's the electric car that Ford has? It's a mid-sized car. There was is it the Focus or something like that? All I know is I know that one Ford vehicle is having problems, and they're not selling the way like Toyota is. Toyota, they're selling hand over fist. Ford is not. They're not getting the range out of these vehicles, and something's wrong. So I'm guessing what they're doing is they're buying into this company, and then it's just going to be eventually a takeover, and they're just going to take over and envelop them into Ford, because it looks like they have a RT. It's a R1T electric pickup truck and a RS electric luxury SUV.
Yeah. So
and coming out in 2020. So
I don't know. I'll still believe it when I see it, because you cannot actually buy a Rivian vehicle right now. You can pre-order one, but you can't actually just go down and buy one like you can a Tesla. And I got it. Tesla had their own start at one point, but I think they experienced a ton of manufacturing problems. So hopefully this cash injection from Ford is going to help them. And actually, I see where you're talking about. That $700 million of cash investment was actually from Amazon. So Amazon has actually invested more in the Rivian than...
Oh, I missed that part.
Yeah,
you're right.
Ford has. Which is, that may be something really more interesting to talk about, actually. Why is Amazon investing in electric vehicles? Maybe they're just looking for the back end.
Because Amazon has endless money.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have endless money. Plus, they realize that electric vehicles, they're pushing for electric vehicles, especially here in California. They're trying to push anything with gas or even diesel fuel out of the market. They don't, they want to try to they want everybody to have electric cars here in California.
Well, I think Amazon is eventually going to put the post office out of business. So the more they can invest in the infrastructure, then this is really just a very strategic move to strengthen the back end for electricity. It's just eventually we've got to get to a point where you can recharge these in more austere environments or have a longer range so that we can, better enjoy some of these off-road adventures that we enjoy. But, have you seen some of these electric motorcycles and what they are capable of? I think eventually a electric vehicle is going to be doing something like the King of the Hammers, where you can just swap out that skateboard battery and have, instant power on demand. With a lot of the maintenance issues that come along with those off-road races are just going to go away. Maybe a short course. Man, short course race truck. That'd be amazing.
Well, we had the quad, or not the UTV at the expo we went to when we met up just last year.
Yep.
They had that electric UTV in the back, and as they said, we're not a UTV, we're a off-road vehicle, but it was like a UTV with all electric, and there were people considering getting rid of their Raptors and their Polarises and their all their other little toys and getting these things because you can just charge them off a regular generator, like you have in an RV. You just charge it up for 6 hours.
So, Adam, I know you're on Instagram a lot. Have you seen the account, the Tesla Sand Truck?
I don't think I have, honestly.
Oh, my gosh. You're going to have to check this one out.
I probably have, and I just scanned over it. But, I guess I need to dig into a little bit of detail. Honestly, I haven't dug into a lot of the electric platforms that are coming out, and I guess I kind of need to.
Yeah, sadly, I think it is a way of the future. Maybe not sadly, but anyways, sadly, because that means my Jeep is eventually going to go the way of the dodo bird and become obsolete, even though...
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that. So there's always a future for even antique vehicles, and the future would be... swapping in an electric motor and, putting a battery bank in those things. I think where it'll get painful is if you want to actually keep a, fossil fuel powered motor in the vehicle, is the government will just tax it so high that you can't afford to keep it.
Yep. And that's the difference between how the U.S. runs vehicles on the road versus a lot of other countries. And that's just tax it until the point where you cannot withstand it. But anyways, that's enough electric talk. Let's talk about some vehicles that you actually can get. Let's talk a little bit about the 2020 Jeep Gladiator. Turns out everybody is in love with Gladiator. I think that's a safe assessment.
Including myself. I really, really want one. I've been on the Jeep website probably somewhere under 10 times, and I've built them and optioned them out, colors, etc. Yeah, I know. I'm usually hovering somewhere between 52 and 55,000, depending on options.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you got to add the dealer markup, which is another 10 grand.
Oh yeah.
So you're looking at 65.
That's why you dealer shop. Not all dealers have that markup. Some of them do. Some of them don't. I've heard that Chrysler's pretty good about policing that stuff, but I've also seen examples of window stickers that have, a $75,000, or even a $15,000 markup, bringing that thing to like $75,000, which is completely unreasonable.
Yeah. So it's funny. My dad is all in on this. He really wants to get one, and he's got a Jeep Grand Cherokee right now with the 3-liter diesel motor, and it's creeping up on 100,000 miles. So he was trying to figure out what he can get into before it starts losing a ton of value. And so he was, there in the dealership getting his Grand Cherokee assessed. So for the trade-in, see what it would get. And of course they were going to give him less than it. He could go do a private sale by a lot, unfortunately. And then also the one that he was looking at was a Overland edition of the Gladiator, which had a lift and some other stuff on it. And I couldn't figure out how it got to $75,000. And he couldn't really explain it. So he sent me an email here just an hour or two ago, that actually has a breakdown on how the Gladiator got to that shocking price tag. Because, the launch edition was $60,000, and it sold every single one of them within hours of it being available for sale. Every single one.
That's what I heard, but I also heard there was some controversy about that it wasn't actually within 24 hours. Regardless, they all sold.
Yeah. Still, that's less than 5,000 up in smoke, just like that. Now
60,000 times, I think, 4,100 or 4,200 vehicles?
Yeah, it was some significance to the number, like the
that's
zip
like a
code
$275 million day for Chrysler. That's a really good day.
Yeah. Yep. So here, this email that my dad sent me, it actually has a breakdown on how it got there. So the base price, $43,545, and then some factory installed options that push it up another $13,555. So I don't know what all those options are, but then
I can tell you.
Yeah, so here's the thing, though. Like, here's the dealer fees and accessories that were installed. These are the ones that are installed at the dealership, not the factory installed options. So before it got to the dealership, it was $58,595, which, that is more than I spent for my full-size Ram truck with the diesel, air ride suspension, and a bunch of creature comforts. So that's already more than that. There is a conversion package that adds $7,017. I don't know what that is. Maybe I can click and nope, it's just a conversion package. A $2,300 light bar. That's nuts.
Wow.
Because in the picture that he sent me, I didn't even see the light bar. And then here's the thing, a $2,300 lift kit. So the light bar costs more than the lift kit. And then, of course,
don't get the light bar.
Yeah, forget the light bar. And then, of course, there's the tire and wheel package for 35-inch tires and different wheels. But that's almost $4,000. So you're adding on.
So this one was already modified by the dealer.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
So there it is, $74,701 to get your Overland Edition Jeep Gladiator.
So are they going to do 10-year financing, or how does that work?
84 years or 84 months.
Yeah. So, I think I said it probably close to 10 years ago when they switched from the TJ to the JK platform that, I test drove one with the old 3.8 liter engine. And I told the dealership, hey, until I can buy one in a truck version with 35-inch tires, I'm probably just going to keep driving my Jeep Cherokee. Well, turns out now that is pretty easy to do. Just walk in the dealership, hand them some money, and I've got a 35-inch tires on a, pickup version with lockers and everything that I like about my XJ, except with a lot more power. Because I think, the 4-liter brand new from the factory had like 190 horsepower, I think.
Yep.
And now this one has 285 horsepower in the 3.6-liter Pentastar V6. Mm-hmm. And a lot better fuel economy.
Allegedly, there's a diesel version coming for the Gladiator.
Yeah.
Allegedly. There's speculation whether we'll actually get it here in the U.S., but apparently it's 450 foot-pounds of torque or somewhere around there.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
Yeah, so that's more than what's in my Ram with the Eco Diesel. And I'm sure it's the same motor, just a little bit tuned-up version, just modernized. So that's easy.
Here's the thing is we already have a 4-cylinder turbo diesel here in America in the new Jeeps. Now, we had this discussion before. I don't understand why they would have two different turbo diesels for the Jeep. One for the Gladiator and one for the regular Jeep.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they put that use the bigger one, the V6 turbo diesel, and put it in, and they would have only had to have one diesel, and that one would have sold better than the Pentastar. I can guarantee it.
I'm guessing it's a subsidy for Fiat.
I don't know. But why would you have two different diesels for the same vehicle? Pretty much the same vehicle. Just one has a pickup bed and one doesn't.
So I think the 4-cylinder turbo is not a diesel. I'm pretty sure that's a gas engine.
No, it's a diesel. You could go on. You can go on the Jeep. You can go on Jeep's website and build a turbo diesel, but it's a 4-cylinder.
Interesting.
And that's what I'm looking at it right here, because it says under the Pentastar, says it's going to be a turbo 2.3 liter 4-cylinder with a 10-speed automatic. So you're not getting a V6 in this, which we thought we were.
No, I think we're going to have to get a V6. It's got to be the Eco Diesel that's going into the Gladiator. Otherwise, there's no way they're going to hit the towing numbers that they want to. Like a turbo 4-cylinder 2-liter engine, diesel or otherwise,
2.3.
It's just not possible to get the towing numbers that they're talking about. And of course,
I don't know. They can get a lot of torque out of these little. I mean, I know a guy that's getting 700 horsepower out of one of our straight 6s.
Well, I'm going to disagree until somebody shows me in black and white that I'm wrong, because that's how I roll.
For some reason, I cannot find, except for that one article where they're saying they're going to give us a V6 in the Gladiator diesel. I can only find one thing, but the website shows something totally different. It's weird.
Yeah. Okay. Anyways, we'll move along, and hopefully anybody email us, the 4x4podcast at yahoo.com, whether Dan is correct, me, or if Craig is correct. I'm saying the 4-cylinder, 2-ish liter is a gas that will never give us the horsepower numbers that we need. Craig's telling me I'm wrong. So, next article.
I'm not telling you wrong. I just think it's a diesel.
Okay. I think not. But I will look it up whenever we're done recording, and I actually don't crash the internet while I'm trying to do that, or crash my brain while I'm trying to read and navigate at the same time. That's actually a more likely case. All right, next article here is from Autoblog. This is Land Service. I don't know, is that how you say it? Serwis. Is building the new Land Rover Series 1 Defenders using the original tooling. So this means it is possible to take that money that you would buy a Jeep Gladiator and instead go buy a brand new version of the classic Series 1 Land Rover, which is pretty brilliant. I mean, you can get the 4-door short bed, short box Land Rover with some classic stylings, definitely way less polarizing than the Gladiator styling. Right now, brand spanking new, straight from the factory. Is that something that either of you would be interested in? Try to not think in terms of being the Jeep fanatics that I know you are.
In all honesty, I actually like Land Rovers. I owned a 96 Discovery 1 SC7 with the R385 speed, and it was a great truck. It reminded me a lot of the Jeep Cherokee in a lot of ways. Just that kind of the simplicity of everything. Would I own one of these if I had the means? One of these Land Service, I guess, kind of rebuilds, 90, 110, or 130-inch wheelbase? Absolutely. If I had the money, I would love one. This kind of reminds me, now that these series are kind of going out of production or have gone out of production, this kind of reminds me how China bought all the tooling from Chrysler for the Jeep XJ,
Yep.
and they're still reproducing it over in China.
Still, just with a slightly altered grill.
Oh, the grill is hideous too on that Cherokee too. It's really bad, but it's I guess I don't know. I won't even go there, but I think it's exciting that you can still get one of these. I didn't read deeply into the article. Are they continuing the same drivetrain, or is it different? Or do you have the option to do just no drivetrain and do your own?
No. So it looks like you can get it in the 90-inch, 110 or 130 wheelbases. Let's see. It's got the 16-inch Wolf steel wheels, which are pretty awesome. My old boss had those, or was looking at them anyways. Let's see. Tires are the 235, 85 Goodyear, so the skinny pizza cutters. Under the hood resides the same Land Rover 2.4-liter diesel evolved from the Ford Puma engine. So there you go. 2.4-liter diesel. That 2-liter is a diesel. You can take that one, Craig.
Here's one interesting thing in the article. Kovea, I guess the owner, says that if you bring him your identification and a set of Defender license plates, the company can recreate your truck from scratch. that is really cool.
Yeah.
And really nostalgic, especially if it is, somebody that's trying to build a truck for their father that owned it when he was younger or something like that. That's really special. That's a really, really cool idea.
Yep. And it comes with a warranty. So a 3-year, 100,000 kilometer warranty that Land Rover used to offer, it can also be had there. And so here's funny. This really is a direct competition to the Gladiator. Looks like the price tag is $67,000 US. Unfortunately, we can't buy it here in North America because it is a new vehicle and doesn't adhere to the chicken tax laws. So that's a bummer.
It's not gonna. Well, it never. I thought the reason why Land Rover, these types of Land Rovers were never allowed in the United States is they never made it up to the safety standards. So even if you get one of these, you can't bring it in because it's not safe.
Yeah.
Well, as far as I understand, they let a certain amount of Defender 90s in.
Yeah. Yep.
I think it was less than, was it 1,500? Am I wrong about that number?
But it was. There's a certain date you can if they're older than a certain date,
25 years.
You can bring them in. But if they're past a certain date, when the laws got put in effect, if let's say this is a totally made up number, let's say of 2000, if you want to bring a 2001 in, you can't because it didn't meet the standards that came in 2000 for 2001.
Yeah, no, it still have to be a 90s because it's a 25-year rule. I know for a fact because I've looked at it very closely, looking at some available options out there. But what you mentioned, Adam, if you bring them some plates, I don't know if that's VIN plates or license plates, but they could rebuild it. I wonder if they could rebuild it as an older version, and then you could, in fact, bring it in and sneak it by the chicken tax.
Yeah, my guess is that there would be more money involved because it's a new vehicle. In addition to the chicken tax, I'm sure.
Well, I don't know if they how is it registered? Is it registered as a 2019 rebuild kit, or is it registered as a 1990 Land Rover?
Well, at the end of the day, you're getting into that like really gray area of VIN swapping, which is very, very illegal. And
we didn't do it here. They did it back there.
To try to sneak that in the country is probably not a good idea.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
The vehicle left as a small little number plate, and it came back in a shipping container. Something's a little fishy. Somebody's going to catch on.
Yeah, I think even the defender of defenders, the lawyer defender fanatic, would probably say the same thing. But I'm interested on what John Kostich over at the Center Seer podcast has to say about this. Looking through these pictures that they have up here of the production model of the Series 1, man, it really is a beautiful truck. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, like it's a good looking truck.
Yep.
I'd rather have one a 2000 if they could make a 2020 version of this new version that is legal for the United States with a diesel motor, it will sell. It would sell in America. People would probably even go 80, 90 grand on one of those. They'd pay more than they would for a Wrangler. They would pay for this.
No, they already do.
But for an older version, to pay new money for an old version, I mean, I'm looking at the switches on here. Oh, no. I'm not paying 80 grand for that.
What this company kind of reminds me of is a company called Singer, which does Porsche 911s. They take a 964 body and they essentially redo everything. And these cars end up being somewhere around like $350,000, but it's a vastly better car from where it started. And they're actually still using the bodies that are already in the U.S. I don't think they're allowed to use, the European stuff.
Yep.
But if they took the trucks that were already here, which they're already rare, I have a feeling they could get even more than 90,000. Or do it as a kit car or something like that, where they still assemble it here.
But see, they never shipped the truck here. They never shipped the short bed four-door here. So you'll never find one of these here. They only had the Defender 80 and the Defender 90. Oh, no, wait, the Defender 90 and the Defender 110.
Maybe they could
SUV.
ship it over.
That's all they ship to the United States.
Maybe they'd also ship a little baggie full of parts to swap that bed on. You never know. Anyways, since we're talking vehicles made of unobtainium.
And the frame.
Well, the frames exist. But anyways.
Because those are 120s, aren't they?
No, the 130 is the truck version, but.
Yeah, so you still got to extend it another 20.
Yeah.
Because the longest one that came to America is 110.
Yeah, but, all those Land Rovers are very modular. Like, they were very forward-thinking, very smart company. They could swap bits and pieces off. A lot of those components are the same across a large number of years. So, but anyways.
Well, they started out as tractor equipment, and they pretty much, went until about 2000 and were still tractor equipment.
Oh, yeah, it still drives like a tractor.
Yep.
Well, I mean, it's interesting to hear what our Defender, our favorite Defender guy thinks of this.
Yeah. So, whenever you're done listening to this episode, head over to Center Steer Podcast and check them out, and maybe send John some messages on all of the Instagrams and Twitters and everything, and get his opinion. So next up, this is kind of old news, but it is not fake news. I guess some of it may be fake news. The Jeep, Easter Jeep Safari concepts. So we'll just go ahead and give a quick rundown of the available ones or what they're talking about, and then we'll jump down a little bit deeper. So we've got the two-door Jeep, which everybody wanted to begin with. Apparently, or so the internet says, the J6. Next up is the Safari. Is that right?
The Gladiator Garvin, Gravity, Garvin. And then they have the JT, the original old Scrambler, the white Scrambler.
Yeah, that's the one.
Concept. They did a concept of that.
So I guess let's start off first with the J6. Oh yeah, J6, the JT Scrambler, and the Gravity concepts. So the J6 is really the one that I think everybody loves the most because it's the two-door, and I don't know why nobody likes the proportions of the four-door, because in reality, if you ask how many Jeeps, four-door versus two-door, are being sold, they're mostly four-doors because people like having more than just another person with them. Turns out people have kids and like places to put stuff.
But I think the idea of the two-door is great, but I think that there are a few people, they think it looks good, but once they actually drive it and use it, in their daily routine, they're going to realize really quickly that they need more room, especially when you can't recline the seat whatsoever and you run into, a wall. Yeah. Instead of being able to be comfortable, when you get in an old Comanche, an old Jeep Comanche these days, I mean, it literally feels like an XJ that was chopped off at the back, and it's not that comfortable.
Yep. Yeah, that's why there's hardly any standard cab pickups available new from the factory, because nobody wants that. They all want to have a little bit of room, at least lay back a couple inches, or have a place to put a tool bag or groceries or something behind the seat. Yeah.
No, I just wish they had taken. I wish Jeep had just done that bed on the CJ6 on the Gladiator. Yeah, it would have extended a little bit more, but I think that's what people are liking, that that bed is a 6-foot bed. So,
yeah,
and not a 5.5 inch or 5 inch or 5.5 or 5 inch 5-foot bed or whatever it is.
People are already losing their minds about the breakover angle. If you added more length to the wheelbase, then people would really go bananas. I kind of think even though I would prefer to have a longer bed, so that I could lay down in the bed and use it as a camper or something, I just don't see Jeep doing a longer bed, mainly because it's going to chew sales away from their full-size trucks.
Totally agree.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, Jeep is a money-making enterprise, and they can't have too much overlap for fear of eating their own sales. So,
well, they don't. Dodge doesn't have a mid-size truck anymore.
You're right. That's why they have the Jeep.
That's why they have this
Gladiator.
Jeep. Yeah, that's why they have the Gladiator.
Yeah, I feel like for the first time in probably, maybe 15 years, Jeep is now starting to really listen to the enthusiast a little bit more. Because they're kind of, I don't want to say they're losing their way when it comes to, innovation. In all honesty, I think a lot of Jeep's current innovation, even for the past 15 or 20 years, has come from AEV, American Expedition Vehicles. I mean, if you see some of the concepts that AEV has built in the last 20 years, Jeep has pretty much been like 10 years behind them. And it's really kind of interesting. Dave, the owner of AEV, posted a picture on his Instagram, and it was a picture of a, essentially Gladiator concept. I forget exactly what they called it. And then, and that was in 2009. And then you look at, 2019 with the way out concept, the Gladiator way out concept.
Yeah.
It almost was completely identical with very, very few changes. And it was so funny to see that time gap of those two vehicles. And then all of a sudden, everybody's so excited when Jeep comes out with it. But, the AEV version went all over the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no way any of those designers could have said, "Oh no, this is completely new. We didn't see that at all." Like, forget that.
Totally agree.
But you got to remember that falls into AV. That's their concept. That's their baby. So now Jeep has to spend the time and try to buy that out off of them.
No, that's all they did.
Yeah, and that takes time. That'll take 10 years to come up with a kind of contract, because AV, if they just give it to, say, oh yeah, we signed it over to Jeep, they were selling their four-door version for it was 120,000 with a V8. Well, that might be a little, but
no, it's definitely in the 100,000 range. But
it was over 100. I know that.
The hood for the Rubicons, the current JT Rubicons with that extra hump in the middle, that is straight purchased from AEV. Like, that was their design. They just bought it out. And it's not a mistake that AEV is located there in Detroit, just down the road from major auto manufacturers like Jeep over in Ohio. And so they are partnered with them throughout. Like, there's been many times, and if I get a chance to ever talk to Dave and sit around with a cup of coffee, I'm going to ask him, like, hey, are you indeed the Skunk Works division for Jeep?
Totally agree.
Like, there is so much connective tissue between those two companies that it cannot be ignored. So just kind of pay attention to what AEV is doing now, and that is a foreshadow into what Ram and Jeep is going to be doing in 10 years.
Well, no, that's not true, because right now they've been focusing on the Chevy Colorado,
which is a great platform, by the way.
Yeah.
That truck is
with
exciting
the diesel.
As well. Yeah, so a good friend of mine, Chris Cordes of Expedition Portal, called me probably 2.5 weeks ago, and he was driving the Bison with the diesel, and said, and this was right after he got out of testing the Gladiator after the initial launch, and he was saying that the Bison just blows the Gladiator out of the water in off-road handling, the way it handles even on the road. However, he said in the technical stuff, the Gladiator was a better vehicle in the rock crawling and the articulation and that kind of stuff. But even still, I'm excited about the Bison. I think it's going to be a really great vehicle. Should they ever really, I guess, kind of come out with it, or is it actually? Are they actually coming out with it? Is it out now?
It is.
It is out now.
But it's from AEV, not from Chevy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
they came up with it. They came up with the design because it was at SEMA, and they had. I guess they had figured out, because the Colorado has that. What is it? Pneumatic suspension?
Is that VTTVS or something XYZ?
Something like that. And so they had to come up with a system that worked with those shocks, and they did it. And that's why it handles so much better than the Jeep on the road.
Yep. Well, and those shocks are still in the Bison, so that was not one of the things that they changed. So I don't know if Chevy has it out. If Chevy has the foresight and intelligence to start doing what Jeep and Ram does and just purchase that AEV wisdom and technology and suck it into their actual production models, then I think Chevy will be onto something. But the problem that Colorado still experiences is that it's still a Colorado, and it's directly competing against the Tacoma and Tundra, which, check out this segue, is our next article, where the Tundra and Tacoma are now sharing a platform. So this is kind of an interesting one, which I think is brilliant, because the line between full-size and mid-size truck is getting real thin. And if you can have some modularity to the platform that it's all built on, then you can accomplish some economy of scale in production and really
cut costs.
Yeah, bring down manufacturing costs. Now, whether or not that savings will be actually seen by the person at the dealership ready to plunk down some money, probably not. But I think what this allows them to do, or my hope anyway, is that they can take some of that savings, double down into some other areas, like we were originally talking about at the very top of the show, some electrification stuff, or at least the hybridization. Because, after going out for an adventure yesterday, a tank and a half of fuel in my Jeep, it's a lot easier to have those adventures if you're not spending all the money just going straight into the tank. So that's my thoughts.
So I think this Tacoma and Tundra, or whatever you want to call it, Tacundra. Tacundra.
You heard it here first.
Tacundra, right? It's interesting that they're building it on the same platform. I mean, the question is, does that mean that the Tacoma is going to get wider? Is the Tacoma going to get bigger brakes? Is it going to have, more of a towing capacity? I mean, if it's on the same platform, I mean, what's the price difference? It's interesting that they're doing it on the same platform like that, a mid-size and a full size. You just kind of have to wonder, where's that going to leave the Tacoma at the end of the day, if it's going to be more on the Tundra platform than an actual Tacoma? Is the weight going to be, more?
I don't think the wheelbases are different. As of right now, I don't think the wheelbases are different between the two. I think they're the same.
Yeah, so maybe it's swapping out cross members that connect the two frame rails to each other.
It's probably going to be all frame rail. It's probably going to be axles, tires and brakes, rims, and stuff like that are all going to be interchangeable. It's just going to be body panels and interior is the only difference going to be between the two. You're probably going to be able to get the same motor, same transmission in either vehicle. It's going to be able to mount up if you have a V8 Tacoma and you have a 6-cylinder.
I don't think V8 Tacoma is a thing.
Nope, never was.
I'm not a
V8
super
Tundra
expert.
was.
Yeah.
Okay, Tundra. I'm sorry, I got them backwards. You could probably, if you wanted, find a wrecked V8 and drop it in your Tacoma.
That sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I have a theory about this. I think that, and I know there are a lot of diehard Tacoma guys out there, rightly so. They are great trucks. And, maybe not so much with the Tundra, at least not within the off-road or overland community, because they're bigger vehicles. They don't fit down quite as many trails between trees, etc. With that said, I think that this is the beginning of maybe not the end of the Tacoma, but at least it being rolled into a full size, and maybe they'll introduce another mid-size with a different name. Or maybe they're just trying to, put these things together, again, like you said, to save money, to maybe invest into some electric stuff.
Probably, or just it's make the frame, instead of having two companies make you two different frames, you have one company making one frame that you can put two different vehicles on.
Maybe more. Maybe we can call this
maybe even more.
the Tacomundra Sequoia thing. That's a weird mashup.
The Tacandry.
Or maybe even that make a longer SUV.
It rides like a Camry.
Yeah, next thing you know, you'll get the Camry truck version, the El Camry.
The El Camry?
It's a train wreck. Oh, man.
Well, okay, we'll just make it real easy. We'll just call it a Ute.
Yeah, that'll work.
Yeah, that's pretty good. We'll go with that. Well, okay, so now let's go through another transition with a way less smooth segue than I had before and go to some feedback here. And I realize now that I missed out on the first part of the message here from Michael Hyde. He sent this on Facebook, and this I think is probably part of a conversation that Michael and I were going back with. He has a 2500 version of the Suburban with Super Duty 60 front and radius arms in the coils, a Cummins 12-valve 6-speed manual transmission, and he's putting a NP205 transfer case with a Northwest Fab doubler on 37s. And he's got a picture down here. And so, I mean, you're talking solid front axle, super beefy axles on a Suburban. This is pretty awesome here. And he says he bought it already. He bought the engine from a 1985 3/4-ton Chevy with a 6-speed. He bought the drivetrain, which ended up, he's had it for 6 years. He was told it was originally out of a school bus, so that's a robust diesel engine that's probably got a lot of starts and stops, but those things are pretty bulletproof. He's put close to 70,000 miles on it since he's got that engine in there. Runs like a top. He pump maxed upgrades to the 362 SXE Turbo with some injectors going in it. He's getting ready for a 3-week family vacation in Moab and a week in Colorado, and as much other wheeling that he can do. In September. It's not daily driven truck, even though it is capable of being daily driven. But he also has the Jetta diesel that gets him nearly 50 miles a gallon on his 50-mile commute. So that's a pretty awesome build. And I like diesel is the one fuel to rule the household. I wish I could get there. If I could only have a engine that runs on diesel in my Jeep, I'd be pretty happy. But maybe not, as Adam will explain to us later. This is a pretty awesome build, Michael. Hopefully we can...
The nice thing about these 12-valve Cummins is that they're kind of like a cockroach. They'll survive a nuclear blast. They just keep going and going and going. And I guess he has the 6-speed transmission that came behind that 12-valve. I mean, literally the drivetrain on this truck, on this build, would potentially outlast the body on it. The nice thing is he's got a ton of room for family, kids, etc. It looks like a great build. I really like it, actually. I'm impressed.
Yeah. So, Michael, you know what I want you to do is send us some pictures from the inside, because the potential for living accommodations and storage in that Suburban is phenomenal. I know from having had one. So I'm just interested to see what you've got on there. I know you had asked a question about tire pressure, and I know we've mentioned in the past, I plan on getting a tire expert on here to give us the real wisdom on how to determine what tire pressure needs to be set for our vehicles. Because, if you just go by the manufacturer's recommended pressure, that is straight from the factory with those factory tires. Once we start changing out tires, adding weight to our vehicles, then that probably changes what the recommended tire pressure should be. So
actually, I have it. I know it. So, I used to pit for a guy that used to do racing up at Laguna Seca. And I talked to a couple of the tire companies there after we had got a new set of tires. And I talked to Yokohama when they did. I was talking to him, and he says, the best way to run your tires is 3 pounds under maximum pressure when you're rolling on the road, because it'll give you the best grip and the best handling and the best miles per gallon.
Interesting.
And I checked with the other two tire companies that were there, and they said the exact same thing.
Well, how about that?
So that's when I with my vehicles, that's how I run. 3 pounds under maximum pressure.
And that doesn't wear the tire funny, as in overinflated cupping in the middle?
No, because it'll your tire, it's under maximum pressure, not over. So if you have a 30-foot, you're on the side of your tire. If it says 41 pounds of pressure, you should be running 38 pounds of pressure.
Interesting.
Well, it will give you the best gas mileage for the way out. You do, like you said, you can't go by once you put a different tire that's not factory on that car, you have to go off what the tire is, not what your book says.
Well, so that means that's supposed to give you the best compromise between traction and longevity and mileage.
Yes.
Huh. So what about if you're driving a full-size truck and you're going to be loading the bed up to max capacity?
Then if you're at max capacity, you should have maximum pressure in your car, the tire. So if your vehicle is at full load, you should be at 41 pounds of pressure. If that's what your tire says on the side, you look at the side of your tire, it should say maximum pressure, and you should never go over that.
Well, there you go. I'm going to have to go out there and check my tire pressures again. Okay, yeah. I'm just going to leave it like that.
Because I do that on my motorcycle, and it rides great. I do that in my car, and my tires have always... I've never had anything on any of my cars that I've had. I've never had uneven wear because of tire pressure. I've had uneven wear because I hit a pothole and knocked the sucker out of alignment, but not because of air pressure. It always worked real well for me. There you go. Final word from Craig is 3 PSI under maximum pressure for daily driving. Boom. Next up in a gear review, this is something that was newly released from Warren Industries, the famous manufacturer of winches. And this is a semi-hidden winch kit or winch mounting system for 2nd generation and 2.5 gen. I don't know. Was there a 2.5 generation Tacoma? Anyways,
there might have been a facelift.
Yeah. Speaking of facelifts, this is replacing just kind of the lower fascia of the bumper with a heavy steel plate, kind of like the ARB winch bumpers. So you can tuck a winch in there and it's still got the fairlead exposed and access to the controls, all without changing the larger portion of the Tacoma. And this is made to fit the 2014 to 2019 Tacomas. Oh, no, the 2016 to 2019 Gen 3 Tacomas and the 2014 to 2019 4Runners. So there you go. It's the same thing. I like that it fits both. You can fit up to a 12,000-pound winch in there. Keeps it nice and discreet, matches the factory body lines, and it looks pretty phenomenal.
It looks like what they do is you use the regular plastic bumper where you look at the fog lights, but it looks like that center section is cut out. You actually cut that out to put that bumper in, or it unbolts. I don't know if that's 2 pieces or not. I always thought that bumper on that was all one piece. It might be 2 separate pieces. Yeah, and you get rid of the lower piece and you put that bumper in. That actually looks really good. That would look really good on the what's the SUV? What's the Toyota's SUV? The 4Runner, yeah.
Yeah. It looks really good.
No, what is it? The 4Runner, but didn't they have another one? It's an SUV?
Yep, there's the Sequoia, the big old
Sequoia. No, that's not the Sequoia. It's got to be the 4Runner.
So
yeah,
and I like that they've also got it powder coated, and when they do the powder coating, it says the Warren press release says it goes under a 5-step pre-treatment process featuring all kinds of big words, and I'm not going to attempt to say, and withstands a 408-hour salt spray test. So that's pretty awesome. You replace a small portion of the bumper, and it's going to be good to go for probably the life of that Toyota, which could be a very long time.
The lower bumper is going to last a lot longer than the plastic bumper above it.
Yeah. Well, at least that plastic isn't going to rust.
408-hour salt spray test. Does that mean the bugs scrub off easier?
Ooh, I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe you can put some Teflon coating on it as well.
Right.
But so this is where we actually go into the garage and talk about what all we've been up to. So, Adam, we're going to start off with you. I know we don't have you here. This is going to be a surprise, but I am always curious. Every single time we talk, I want to know about the saga of the Diesel XJ. So how close are we to getting this thing running?
So just to give everybody kind of a little background, I've got a 94 XJ 5-speed. It's an SE, so it's a base model. It's fully built as an overland vehicle. dual, refrigerator, freezer, sleep platform, 3.5-inch lift, lock front and rear with 31s. And I have put a Mercedes OM617 turbo diesel. It's a 5-cylinder diesel out of a 1983 300D sedan. And just in case nobody's familiar with the motor, these motors are extremely reliable, known for going upwards of 600,000 miles, before needing a rebuild. But that's with, of course, the expensive routine maintenance that comes with owning a Mercedes engine. I of course found that out the hard way. I was, I originally bought this car for $450 as a donor, pulled the motor out of it. I mean, looking at the motor, it was caked in just oil, as most diesels are. They just plain leak because they like to rattle themselves apart. So basically, I've replaced every single seal in the motor, rebuilt the turbo, timing chain, I've done everything just short of rebuilding the motor. And it's only got 240,000 miles on it. Did a compression test. It's great. Motor's in the Jeep now after literally, I've been wrestling with this Jeep for about 1.5 years on this project. Reason being is it's not a well-known swap. There's not a lot of information out there on the internet about this swap. And that's kind of the reason why it's taken so long, just to get good parts together. And I'm one of those guys that I either do it right or I don't do it at all. So where it is now, the motor's officially in the Jeep, sitting on the motor mounts, bolted to the transmission. Basically, now I'm working on oil lines, fuel lines, wiring, and I've actually just got all my coolant hoses in. So I am weeks away from firing this thing up for the first time in 1.5 years, which is really exciting, because there have been times I've really kind of wanted to just give up on it, but that's
set the thing on fire and walk away.
That's exactly how it's been.
You're gonna have to go live and videotape it when you go to start it for the first time. You gotta have somebody with a camera and videotape this, because it's going to be an historic moment with it.
Right. The problem with going live the first time is it just might not start.
Yeah.
That could be an 1.5 hour long video. It could be a 2-day video. It could be a 2-week video. Like, I literally don't know.
I don't think I could stand to watch it live, just because the heartbreak of it not working would just crush me.
Totally.
And I'm not
agree.
even the one invested in it like you are.
Right. Well, that's the thing is I've got a lot of people that follow it, and they're emotionally invested in it, and they're cheering me on, and I'm just like, I'm so sick of this thing. I don't even want to look at it, But the thing is, I haven't gotten to drive it in 1.5 years. I haven't gotten to enjoy it in 1.5 years, and a lot of the frustration has come from, one, it just taking a long time, and two, projects that I think are going to take 20 minutes end up being 5 hours, because I'm dealing with a 35-year-old motor and 35-year-old hardware. Yeah. And I don't think there is a nut or bolt I haven't turned on this engine or on this Jeep. And even right now, I dropped the gas tank today, drained it and cleaned it. Hands smell like gasoline.
I've done that.
Oh, man. So are you going to use the same fuel tank, just purge it and run the diesel in it?
I am. I have to enlarge the lines, and basically, I'm kind of at that process right now as of today. Is getting everything ready for just putting diesel in the tank.
Nice. Well, so I guess the easier transition is I got my XJ out on the trails. I haven't really driven it for long distances very much. I realized it's time for its annual oil change. The last time I changed the oil was last May. Because I can quickly reference the Blackstone. I use the Blackstone oil analysis, which is great. Keep track of when my oil changes are exactly and establish trends on how the engine's doing on the inside. But I have not yet hit 3,000 miles on it. And I'm using, Mobil 1 synthetic extended life oil for high mileage vehicles. So, an annual oil change for it is not too bad on it, I don't think. But I've been running just short trips to and from work, like a 2-mile commute there and back. So whenever I can get it out and stretch its legs, it's pretty nice. Put a couple 100 miles on it yesterday with the family. But getting the whole family, my wife and 3 kids in there, it's just kind of miserable. And like once they were all in and complaining because the air conditioner doesn't work, which is my fault, like I was like, you know what? Maybe I should just drive this into a dealership, take whatever they'll give me for it, and get a new Jeep.
I kind of feel like when they designed the XJ in 1984, or probably 83 actually, or even before that, God knows, that people were just smaller. I mean, people weren't big.
Yeah.
Vehicles back then, they were just smaller, and like you didn't know any better to not complain about not having a lot of room unless you drove a big boat of a Cadillac.
Yeah.
No,
so you got by in the
everybody.
XJ.
No, everybody wanted small vehicles in that era. That was the era of small little imports and gas, trying to save gas, and in the 90s. So it was, we're gonna make the smallest vehicle so it doesn't.
Yeah.
It cuts through the wind. It gets good gas mileage. Well,
I don't
Jeeps
think cutting through
really
the wind
get
was
good
the
gas
plan for
mileage
the
anyways.
Cherokee. That was never in the thought process.
Yeah, I agree. Especially now with that 4-liter 6-cylinder, it's a big gas sucking motor. I mean, basically, if you want to drive an older XJ, be small. Just there's not going to be a lot of room otherwise. And here's the funny thing: I just had a friend sell his 80 series. I sat in that thing, had the electric power seats. I've got more room in my XJ than in his 80 series.
Yeah,
it kind of blew my mind. I mean, how small the 80 series Toyota Land Cruisers are on the inside, and they look like a giant vehicle, and they're great vehicles. But I just kind of really wasn't impressed by the lack of leg room. And I understand that the manual seat gives you an extra 2 inches. That's not saying much.
No. Well, anyways, so we went out and explored the Kelso sand dunes and the lava tubes. And these are both kind of side trips from the Mojave Road. And since I'm pretty local to the Mojave Road, I figured we'd go explore those as a day trip thing. But after we finished the lava tubes, and I've got some pictures there in the Instagram. I'll put some more up because it's a pretty unique geological feature, and it's very well hidden. But after we finished that, we jumped on and did a section of the Mojave Road, and we were blasting through there. You say blasting, but at 35, 40 miles an hour down the Mojave Road. For anybody that's done it, you'll know 40 miles an hour in a daily driven vehicle.
Blasting.
Yeah, that's going pretty fast. And we passed, I think, 3 groups just in that short time, and the kids were having a blast. My wife was having a good time. It was only the one time where I got sucked into a soft, sandy shoulder and just about clobbered a creosote bush. Everybody got real quiet for a second, but it was no big deal. Everybody took a deep breath, and we were back on the trail and bombing through. And the fact that I could do that and then pull back on the pavement road and just go hit the gas station, grab some drinks, and then head home. Like, everybody was back in love with the XJ. So that's all it took, was a little bit of time, enjoying what it was meant to do. And the Jeep gets to live in the Cole family for another day.
That's funny.
I can guarantee you, and I've told you this before, and I'll tell you again, once you get rid of it, you're going to kick yourself.
Yeah. Well,
after you get rid of it, you get something else. And if unfortunately you get something that happens just to be a lemon, because I will tell you, you can unfortunately get a Jeep that is a lemon. It happens. Don't be offended, people, but it happens. I got a lemon and I'm fixing it. I'm spending the time fixing my lemon, but you get one.
Yeah, well, either way, I don't think the XJ is going anywhere.
Yeah,
it'll be eventually, retired from normal duties by something else, I'm sure, but it's not going anywhere.
And then once the kids are gone, you'll be right back in it. When they're old enough, and CJ's ready for a Jeep, he'll be all happy to get it to go to high school.
Or at least a learner. Everybody can learn to drive in the XJ. It'll be great.
Exactly.
Well, this has turned into a marathon show. I just looked at the timestamp on the recorder here. It is a long one. So we're going to go ahead and wrap it up right there. Just want to say you can support the 4x4 podcast by shopping at Amazon. Just go to the 4x4podcast.com/Amazon, and we'll get a few cents from that purchase. We also have some stickers still up for donation. And, if you want to send us a donation, but if you just want a sticker and you don't want to donate, that's fine. Also, just send us an email, and I'll get some out to you. And also, don't forget we are a part of the 4x4 Radio Network. Head over to 4x4radio.com, and you'll find a playlist with all of our other shows there. The Center Steer podcast, all about Land Rovers, as we talked about already. Jeep Talk Show, talking all things Jeep, of course. On the Trail with Kevin and Scott. Caught me in the middle of a sneeze. And also the Trail Chasers with Cody and Matt. So they were out on the Mojave Road, probably finishing up as we record here. Maybe once we hit stop, I'll see how they're doing. Anyways, you
It's
can...
probably raining on him.
Oh, is it raining outside? I know the clouds were coming in. It was on the forecast, but hopefully they're off the trail. The Mojave Road can get kind of sketchy in the rain. There's lots of ways that you can contact us. There is email, the 4x4podcast at yahoo.com, Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, and the voicemails are some of my favorites. Send us a voicemail at 719-924-5337 or hit up the show notes here at the 4x4podcast.com/146 for all of the links to the articles that we've discussed, and also that link to the SpeakPipe where you can send us a super high quality voicemail and maybe listen to your message before you actually hit send on it. So thanks again, Adam, for joining us here and sitting in for Rich. Where can somebody learn more about the Diesel XJ and all of your adventures there in Virginia?
I'm on Instagram as overland_history, and I'm also on Facebook as well. So yeah, you can find me there.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. This wraps it up for episode 146. So tread lightly, God bless, and stay safe out there while exploring your world. The 4x4 Podcast, episode 146. Whether you're going to start, I'm just going to start over.
This is the 4x4 Podcast.
And take two.